Hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, back with Anton, Rayne, and Sordland. We have a lot to attend to. Last couple episodes, we had some pretty good news in terms of the economy. We're now up a little higher than what we were. We're not as high as what we were briefly. We were up to here. Now we're back down to here. Our budget is in the green. We still got some personal wealth left, although we dumped a bunch of our own money into our election or re-election campaign. So hopefully that plays out for the better. Also, the military went hog wild on the Bloods and took them out in quite a few places. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of today's episode here. Mayor of Morrill requests financial aid for the city to combat the increased immigration. He reported that the city will be a ghost town in a few years if no measures are taken. Lack of goods and material flowing from Horna and Holsord is the main contributing factor to this city's economic downturn. Alright. NFP welcomes General Luderan's son. The National Front Party has welcomed General Luderan's son into their midst today in Holsord. Seeing a Luderan back in politics is shocking to many citizens. General Luderan infamously organized the military coup against former President Wissi that led to the sort of civil war. Mr. Keebner has organized the event to appeal to his voter base. This is a symbolic step for the NFP, as Luderan was arguably the most well-known nationalist in Sordland. Marcel Caranti's HOS Advertising, the biggest advertising agency in Sordland, volunteered to help with the election campaign. It will provide consulting and design work for campaign material. Marcel Caranti just got arrested, so good friend to have. The agency will also produce video material for television, which will be televised extensively by the channels owned by HOS Media Group. HOS Resorts will also open to all party events and meetings during the campaign period. All right, well, there's that. Moving around, do we have anything international to deal with? Kind of break things up a little bit. We got this thing here in Vogsland. Mayor of Lenkirk requests financial aid for the city to slow down the economic crash, which was triggered by a massive decrease in fish exports. Fish is nasty, so can't blame people. The city is reported to have a problem in finding new customers. Tons of salmon are left to rot on a daily basis, which caused many fishermen to move away from the city. That's Agnolia. Agland. Increased crime rate and racial violence plagues Sarna. Uh-oh. Mayor of Sarna requests financial aid. All these people asking for money. This is going to disappear pretty quick. Financial aid and additional security for Sarna. He reports a spike in racial violence and crime in the city. The lack of investment seemed to intensify the economic difference between different parts of society. Right. On to the main event here. PFJP Sahul slogan, victory for everybody. That's a lady there. I guess you could call her a lady. Richter is gone. Sahil is party lead. As the 1957 election starts to approach, new leader Manuli Suhila, see what I mean? Sketchy. And the people, she looks like a zombie. And the People's Freedom and Justice Party are making waves in Lachaven. Her campaign slogan, Victory for Everybody, covered the city after a campaign visit to the city. PFJP has been the United Sordland Party's, that's my party, major opposition since their formation, each year earning a higher percentage of the votes. Scheduled television interview in the Blue Mansion. Here we go. Makeup crew had just finished their preparations for the interview. Lucian stopped me on the way off to the balcony of the Blue Mansion where the film crew was standing ready to film. Are you ready for the interview, sir? I'm going to have to bite my tongue quite a bit, I think. Why, dude? Don't I look ready? No, sir, you look great. Crew is ready to start filming. Mr. Sacker is excited to interview you. As I explained before, it would be bad press to decline this interview offer. They are the most prestigious interview program in the world. And they are from Kroot. The country is known for its neutrality. I don't think there will be too much pressure. Get this over with. Walked to the balcony and sat on the seat prepared for me directly in front of Mr. Sacker. Tuomas Sacker. That's his name. Tuomas Sacker. Mr. President, welcome to One-on-One. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you. Let's begin with the latest incident between Sordland and Rumburg. An aircraft of the Swedish Air Force was shot down by Rumburgian anti-air guns a few weeks ago. Officials from Rumburgian government proclaimed that the aircraft was flying inside the airspace of Rumburg. Just a few days after the incident, Swedish anti-air guns shot down a Rumburgian airplane. This time your government proclaimed exactly the same, while the Rumburgian government insisted their plane was inside their airspace. Many argue that this was not a coincidence and the Swedish army acted intentionally in retaliation. Did you give such an order? No, I didn't. Our forces only acted in response to their breach of our airspace. A lie. Or maybe it wasn't. Who knows? Yes, it was done in retaliation. They attacked us first illegally inside our own airspace. To be brutally honest, their claim is nonsense. Our plane was shot down inside our borders. We'll go with that one. It's just honest. What about the attack from your side? It doesn't seem like an accident. Aren't you asking about the first attack? They started all of this. Or their plane breached our airspace and our forces only acted in response to that. Or we could be brutally honest once again. Done in retaliation for their attack. Go with this one. Are you saying that Rumburgian officials are lying? Are you absolutely certain that their plane was inside Swedish airspace? They lied in both incidents. You believe these harassments could lead to an actual war between Sordland and Rumburg in the future? Let's see. I hope not. We are willing to do what it takes not to create a conflict. Not true. It's very likely, yes. Brutally honest. I believe that's what Rumburg wants. They've been working to get a justification for such an action. Well, if they want war, we will give them war. We'll throw it back into Rumburg's court here. This week, both the Arcasian and the United Cantonan governments have condemned the airplane incident. You think they would be involved as mediators in the case of a broader conflict between your two countries? It's not even a question. They would surely get involved, but I don't know if as mediators. I hope so. We look up to the international community to maintain peace in all of Mercopa. I don't expect much from them. He stopped for a moment and took a brief look at his papers. Let's continue on that note. I want to expand a little more on your foreign policy. Talk about the ongoing conflict about the Helgeland Island. Sordland is not officially taking any sides between Agnolia and Vogsland. So far, you have refrained from making any statements about the conflict. According to reports from yesterday, Vogslandian Navy had finally attacked the Agnolian fleet at Helgeland Island. Today, Prime Minister Van Horten announced that the island is indeed under an invasion. He said Vogslandian troops landed on the island. So here's my question. What is and will be the role of Sordland in this conflict? Sordland has or will have no role in this conflict. We are not taking sides. We stand with Vogsland in the rightful intervention in the island. We stand with the people of Helgeland or the Agnolians. Well, we're going to stand with Vogsland. Why not? I don't like the Agnolians because they turn their nose up at my trade deal. Oh, hell with them. Would Sordland also get involved if the situation gets out of control? As a peacekeeping force, yes, we can't let Markian Sea turn into a war zone. I hope the situation won't come to that. But what if it does? It won't. Just drop it. Okay, let's move on to another topic. You're obviously dodging my questions, Anton. Last year, a huge conflict took place close to your borders with Wayland. When the Wezek forces partook in a massacre of Bludish civilians under the guise of eliminating the Bludish Freedom Front, Sordland decided to watch the atrocities take place. In fact, you not only closed the borders to the refugees fleeing from a massacre, your border guards worked in cooperation with the Wezek forces. Will you accept responsibility of thousands of lives that were lost in Wayland? Of course not. We had nothing to do with what went on inside Wayland. We only protected our borders. It's true we worked with Mr. Smolak, but I don't think anyone can blame Sordland for protecting his borders. Breaks my heart to see so many people die. No, skip that one. We worked with him, but nobody can blame us for protecting our borders. We are the closed borders people after all. Many have criticized Sordland for its role in this conflict. Do you not accept any of the criticism? No, there's nothing wrong with protecting our country. Our role, really? Why don't you ask Mr. Smolak these questions? Sure, we could have helped the refugees, but then again, how do we distinguish between civilian and militant? Nothing wrong with protecting our country. You could have... On the gesture of the director, he stopped before finishing his sentence. Well, it seems that's all the time we have for today. What a lame-ass interview that was. Thomas. The director shouted at the crew to stop recording. We both stood up and shook hands. Thank you for your valuable time, Mr. President. It was a pleasure. Hopefully next time we'll meet again in Kroot. He smiled. Of course, Mr. President. Always welcome in Kroot. Lucian walked up to the director and started talking to him. I went inside the building. Okay. That was our televised interview. Vogsland occupies Helgeland. This morning, Vogslandian forces have occupied Helgeland with only a small amount of casualties when the forces of Helgeland surrendered after the invasion that was executed yesterday. After the surrender, Chancellor Hagel had reclaimed Helgeland as part of Vogsland and described the events as the triumph of freedom and reversal of historical injustices. Agnolian leader Van Horten condemned the invasion and the AN for leaving Agnolia alone and not interfering. Oh, excuse me. This was a drastic first step of Vogslandian and Malianist invasion in eastern Marcopa, and I'm warning those who allow them to do this. This is how liberty dies, he said. Agnolian Navy has also returned back to Stalport after a brief firefight with the Vogslandian forces. Okay. There are two things. Oh, yeah, here we go. Got some more stuff to do. Following a brief visit to Lachaven, the president spent the afternoon meeting local citizens at Republic Avenue. Some swords chose to voice their disapproval of the administration, but President Rayne handled the dissenting voices well, earning further loyalty from his base supporters. Lucky I didn't have him thrown in Antel Rock. Brutish opinion low. Unrest is rampant in Dire, with sentiments for President Rayne at an all-time low. Bludish citizens have faced oppression on par with President Sol's government. Bludish activists in Dire are calling for President Rayne's resignation, and if their demands are not met, protests are expected to follow. Can I just kick your asses with my military? Don't make me do it again. Go see what this is all about. A private meeting with Lileas Graf. Fucking A. Graf Manor. The historic Graf Manor lay on the outskirts of Arvery, at the end of a long, windy drive. Nearly 2 centuries old, it was as formidable as Lileas herself, also 2 centuries old. Lileas had invited me here for a private dinner, just the two of us. Wasn't sure of her motivation, but was happy to have an excuse to escape the chaos back in Holsword. Serge dropped me off at the door. Go inside without knocking. Walk up in that place like you own it, Anton. I cautiously pushed the heavy door open. I followed the sound of classical music into the parlor. Gas lanterns lent the wood panel room a cozy orange glow. Lileas was sitting on the sofa. Above her hung a nearly life-size portrait of a sallow, unhappy-looking young woman in a lace ball gown. That your grandmother? Probably her. I'm just going to say that. My mother, actually. I was her only child, you know. Giving birth to me left her medically unable to conceive. My father never could forgive her for not bearing him a son. And she never forgave me. She took a measured sip of one of the 2 glasses of sparkling wine she was holding and handed me the other. What do you want? Get to the point. Like being here. Given your current circumstances with Mrs. Rayne, I thought you could use a home-cooked supper. Oh, Christ. Butler silently stepped into the parlor and rang a silver bell. Speaking of which... Ew. She led me into the dining room where a glittering chandelier hung from the high ceiling. Beneath it was a long table set for 2. A woman in an apron and chef's hat, Wesek by her appearance, ceremoniously presented a roast rack of venison. Start eating. Aren't you forgetting something? Lileas bowed her head and said a quick prayer, then motioned for me to dig in. It was some of the best meat I've ever had. We ate in silence for a while, then Lileas pensively laid her cutlery down. I've got my wife making smart-ass comments in the background. Little does she know it's pretty pertinent to what's going on here. Mr. President, I wish I had been consulted on this military parade decision. Is that really the best use of our time and resources given the mounting unrest in this country? Uh-oh, hey God. Don't worry, the military's taking care of it. That itself is cause for worry. As long as Joseph is still on my side, they won't get out of hand. Those scandal revelations about you are circulating in the government circles and might soon spread further out. What scandals would those be? What do you think I should do about it? A strong leader would ignore the allegations and focus on winning the election. What scandals is she talking about? I think I might have missed something. Focus on doing your job. Gotch. Anton, thank you for all the help you've given me, my ministry during your term. I'm all the more grateful considering it wasn't even initially a priority of yours. I do wish you had heeded my request to place the gendarmerie under my jurisdiction. And I regret that you caved to Miss Walda and mandated the teaching of that evolution nonsense in schools. Not to mention feeling the need to pump our children full of strange chemicals in response to some unconfirmed health threat. Polio, really? You backwards twaddle? Regardless, I'm looking forward to working more closely together during your next term. I'll drink to that. We clinked glasses. By the end of the meal, I was pleasantly full and a little tipsy. Butler had to lead me back through the manor's winding corridors until I found the door. Waved at Lileas out the window as Serge pulled away. Thank God I just left. Coming campaign would be turbulent, but at least I had her on my side. How sweet. Or so I hoped. Okay. Well. Now what? Ooh, the military parade. This will be fun. Be fun to read. It was a usual day for the residents of Holsword. An unusual day, sorry. Regularly, the used streets and avenues were blocked off by the military personnel. Many shops and cafes were closed, and once crowded stores were now empty. Instead, thousands of residents in Holsword were concentrated in one street, Victory Avenue. Stretching out through the heart of Sordland, people on both sides of the road were waving their Swordish flags proudly for the military parade. I was getting prepared to embark on my trip. It was going to be a short drive down the Victory Avenue until we reached Maroon Palace. My company for the trip was Joseph and Serge, as usual, driving the presidential car. Joseph approached me. He was wearing his decorated ceremony outfit. He carried a sword with a goat head at the handle and his pistol by his hip. He put on his cap. Mr. President, we are almost ready. We will depart right after the tank column. That's exciting. Rumburg will think twice after today. It will tremble before the Swordish military might. After hearing the loud thump of a book falling down to the floor, he turned to a couple privates that were doing the preparation on the schedule and started walking in their direction. Private, can't you do your job right? Watch the young soldiers perform a lousy salute to Joseph. What is that salute, soldier? Watch, this is a real salute. Wow. Everyone's feeling it, I guess. He performed an excellent salute, and after scolding the privates, he walked back. Strict as ever. In my early days as a young Swordish Ute, I was in the army, and he was my commanding officer. Serge appeared in the entrance and joined us. The President, Mr. Lancia. Serge performed a salute to Joseph, which made Joseph smile under his mustache. At ease, Mr. Volkner. We ready to depart yet? Yes, sir. Follow me, please. We started following Serge through the corridors. President, have you seen the tanks? Our planes, too? Rumburg will be so scared when they see this. That's the plan. Great one, I'd say. He still loves me, even after I shit on him all the time. The kids were very excited to wake up today, to see the planes fly. Serge, where did you do your military service? Morna, 7th Artillery Squadron. Still talk with many of my friends from those days. Camaraderie of military is never forgotten. I still talk with many from my days as well. What about you, sir? All over Sordland, Mr. President was under my command once. Summerin Outpost. Remember those days? Who could forget about Major Lancia? We called him the Relentless. Joseph let out a long laugh. Ah, the good old days. We're here, sir. We exited the building and walked over to the clearance where the black Cadilla, the presidential car, was waiting. It was decorated properly for the event, and the top canopy had been removed. Really? Uh-oh. So that we could stand and wave to the people. Oh, no. Not in Dallas, are we? On the way to the car, generals and admirals were lined up on both sides of the carpet. The atmosphere immediately changed when these experienced men who fought many times for their country saluted me. I saluted back with respect. We entered the car and Serge started the engine. Joseph was standing right next to me. The car started rolling. Even though there were many walls and trees in between the car and the crowd, I was able to hear the deafening sound of cheering Swordish citizens. Gradually, we made our way to the starting point. A couple of old propeller planes flew above our heads, and I thought whether the planes were older than me. Loud footsteps of the marching soldiers were followed by loud noises coming from tank engines. Tanks came into my view. They were top-of-the-line modern battle tanks. Their shining armor under the sun invigorated national pride. We waited for a few minutes for the announcement. Finally, it was our turn. On both sides of the Victory Avenue, there were numerous citizens cheering my name, waving their Swordish flags. I'm surprised by that. Raise your fist. Looking out At the benches where the general staff was sitting, I saw Tarkin Sol sitting next to General Vulcan. We kept our slow and steady pace. We were almost at the Arthur S. Wissey statue several hundred meters away. A group of soldiers saluted me as we passed by. They looked proud and stout in their new infantry uniforms and with brand new rifles. We continued on as per the schedule and finally arrived at the Maroon Palace, which marked the end of the parade. People of Whole Sword dispersed to their homes. A clear message was sent to Rumburg by the display of our military might. I was expecting to get assassinated, to be honest with you. We were about to see whether or not it would be enough. Okay, on to the next chapter. I actually think I'm going to call it here before we move on to the next chapter. That was a fun little episode here. Get another one up for the end of the week. This should go up on, I think I'm putting it up on Tuesday or Wednesday, probably Wednesday. And I'll have the continuation of this up on Friday, if all goes well. Anyway, if you liked the episode, hit that like button. Are you as surprised as I am that Anton didn't get shot? Are you as relieved as I am that Lileas didn't make a pass at me? Let me know in the comments down below. If you want to follow along through the rest of our douchebag playthrough on Suzerain, hit the subscribe and you can come along with us. And we will see you for the next episode. Maybe we'll get into a war. J76NY saying thank you very much for watching and have yourself a very good day.